Hey everyone, it's 6 o'clock, so I'm thinking we wait 2 or 3 more minutes. And I did just send Ms. Slaughter the phone number to call in. I think last time she was texting me having trouble getting in by phone, so hopefully we'll get her connected this time.
Chair Rutger, this is Joe. Do you know what
Yes.
number she used? I have 2 numbers currently in the attendee list, ending in 4672 and 1659.
Let me see if I can. Hers is 9957 at the end.
Okay, I do not see that number.
Okay, I'm going to write it down so I can. I have it handy in case we see it. Well, the number I have for her is 305-9957. So if you see that one come up.
Yeah, and they can hear us. So if Ms. Slaughter, if you're in attendance, you can go ahead and press *9 to raise your hand. Does not appear to be her, so we will continue to wait.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, well, it looks like we have 4 commissioners. Wait, Lisa may be leaving. She's moving into a lake. Hello. Okay, so why don't we get started, and hopefully we'll add people along the way. And I've got my phone in case anyone texts me trying to get in. This evening, I called to order the Charlottesville Redevelopment and Housing Authority special meeting, meaning virtual meeting, Monday, October 26, 2002 at 6 p.m. And we are meeting virtually because the Governor Northam issued an executive order, EO 53, restricting public gatherings of greater than 10 persons. Accordingly, Code 2.2-3708.2A3 permits public bodies to meet electronically to discuss business required or necessary to operation of the public body in discharge of its lawful purposes, duties, and responsibilities in times of emergencies and to address COVID-19. Therefore, this meeting is being held electronically pursuant to Virginia law because the COVID-19 pandemic makes it impractical and unsafe to assemble a quorum physically in a single location. Okay, so Leslie, could you do a roll call of commissioners?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Chair Rutger?
Here.
Commissioner Goldblatt? Here. Commissioner Green?
Aye.
Commissioner Henry? Here. Commissioner Osteen? Commissioner Slaughter? Mayor Walker? We have a quorum.
Great. And we'll have a moment of silence before we begin our meeting. Okay, thank you. So if anyone has an announcement, this is a good time while people are watching, in case we go later. For any announcements and meeting dates, I'll read the meeting dates, but then if anyone else has something to add that would benefit any of the CRHA residents or anyone watching, please speak up and you can share your announcements. So the meetings I have to announce is that the safety committee is meeting every other Tuesday. And Ms. Goldblatt, the notes I have say the next meeting is November 10th.
The next meeting is tomorrow.
That's what I was wondering. Okay.
Yeah, so tomorrow we'll meet at 6 p.m. and then again on November 10th.
Okay, wonderful. And contact Ms. Goldblatt or Mr. Sales for the link, the Zoom link to participate in that meeting. Then the redevelopment meetings for the CRHA properties tend to have a different topic each week, but all related to redevelopment. Those are every Thursdays at 2:30 p.m. And again, there is a Zoom link. Please ask, and we would love for you to participate. Our next board work session, which I believe will probably be looking at the annual plan or talking about the draft of the annual plan, Thursday, November 12th at 5:30. And then the commissioners, before we end tonight, should talk about our next meeting, our next monthly meeting. In the past, I believe the November and December meetings have been merged into one because the December one tends to fall over the holiday week. I would be happy to merge it into one or do both because I have to say, typically the commissioners, people were out of physically unable to meet. With people traveling over the holidays, since I'm assuming we'll have less of that and we're online, we could very well do two meetings or we could merge them into one at the beginning of December to cover both months. Let's just decide that now while we're on it. Does anyone have a preference for doing a November and December monthly meeting, or we could put them together and do that maybe like on a Thursday when we typically do a work session at the beginning of December. And Mr. Sales, tell us if there's any pressing business that you can think of, or we just stick with what we've got. And let me check sorry.
Chair Auditor, I will be out of town on the 28th of December. And while I can try to dial in, that was unsuccessful last week.
Oh, yes.
I wasn't in town. So, it's kind of up in the air for me, but I will be out of town.
Okay.
I will say we're working on the annual plan. So we would like to do a hearing on 12/17 to finalize it.
Is that the last date?
That just gives us a little bit of time to put the final touches on it, get all the supporting documentation, so we're not rushing at the end like we did last year.
Let's see. What is, sorry, I'm getting my calendar just to make sure that's a Thursday, the 17th.
Yeah, I think we have a
That
work
would be a
session.
typical work session day, so we could make that our, no, Lisa.
The first Thursday is the 3rd and the second is the 10th. That's the typical work session, the second Thursday. This will be the 3rd. Right?
That's correct.
Yes. Mr. Sales, do you think it would be ready on the 10th?
Well, the 10th, I know that at one of the previous meetings, there was a discussion about having Delphine Carnes come back and do training on financial
Right.
training, and she was open to the 10th. That would be a good day for her as long as it started, I think at 5 o'clock is what she said, 5 or 5:30.
Okay.
For that meeting, it will work. And she would like to talk about LaTeX since we're going in that direction, and it's a good thing to do before we are like fully immersed in it. So
Yeah, that would be great.
that will probably take up the entire time.
Our budget meetings have been set for Thursday. And starting at 6,
Okay.
we have them scheduled for, for the second Thursday. So we have that scheduled for November and December so far,
It's for every Thursday.
just for these 2 months
Oh, okay. Okay.
so far. Yeah.
Would the 17th or another day, I just don't want to step on another meeting,
Yeah.
some other meeting that people have to go to, but we, if we have the hearing, we could do the monthly meeting on the 17th. Is the 17th also a council budget work
No,
session?
not for me. No.
Okay. Ms. Green, would you be able to do the 17th if we tried to make it a monthly meeting mostly focused on the annual?
In the evening, but not the afternoon.
Okay. Is 5:30 okay? That's when we've typically been doing it.
So we would need to merge the budget, the work session and the annual plan review into that meeting.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, because
Yeah, so we wouldn't do the business that we would do on the 20th.
on the 10th. Mr. Sales, do you think we should ask if Delphine is available for the 17th?
I can ask her tomorrow.
Thank you.
I'll
And
get an answer.
okay, and then we'll figure this out. So let's say we'll do something on the 17th. Hopefully we can add the financial training.
And this is December 17th, correct?
Yes, sorry, December 17th.
I should be able to do 5 that day.
Okay. And if she can't, we'll know that Thursdays are out and maybe we can find a Tuesday, another evening that she might be available between now and the holidays.
Only the second Tuesday right now, that Thursday. But if you start at 5, I can be there for the first hour.
Okay.
So you want to see if we can do Delphine's training still on the 10th and see if she can start at 5 if all the other commissioners can do 5?
Would that be okay, Ms. Walker, Mayor Walker? Okay, yeah, then let's just stick on the 10th since she already said she could do it. So back to our meeting announcements.
Wait, so now I'm confused. What, in November, are we just keeping the regular meeting as scheduled? Is that the decision? That would be the 23rd of November.
It sounds like we might as well if,
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Okay.
yeah.
But we're not having a December meeting.
No, we'll do the 17th annual plan hearing in lieu of a December meeting. Mr. Sales, does that sound?
Yeah, that's fine. That works with me.
Okay, so in conclusion, we will have a regular November board meeting, November 23rd. Then we will have a December 10th work session, financial training. And on December 17th, we call it a work session, a hearing for the annual plan so that CRHA can then send it forward to HUD. Or would you be opening it to public comment at that point?
Open to public comment.
Right. That's what I meant. Okay, so then they'd be able to open to public comment on the annual plan. right, we'll send reminders. I just wanted to get that out. Any other just general announcements anyone has for listeners?
And I think we should probably, since we do have a budget work session on those Thursdays, Joe, do you see any issues with this?
As far as the all meetings that just stated,
Yes.
Yeah,
no, I think that right now we can accommodate all those dates.
and with our sessions that will follow at 6.
Yeah, I don't have the budget work sessions on on my calendar. Brian has those, so I can talk with him
Okay.
tomorrow.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Great, thanks for checking.
Chair Rottinger, is this going to both of those in December on the 10th and the 17th start at 5?
They can. We've been starting at 5:30 typically. Does it matter to you?
No, I just want to get it on my calendar, so.
Okay. Why don't we say 5:30, which gives Ms. Walker more time to transition into her, no? Okay, never mind. All right, 5:30, whatever. We're doing it 5:30. Okay. If there's no other general announcements, we can move into public comment.
Okay, welcome to our CRHA meeting for all registered attendees. We are now at the public portion comment of the meeting. If you would like to address the commission during this time, please click the raise hand icon, or if you're joining us by phone, press *9. We will call on you in the order of hands raised, and once we enable your audio, please unmute your mic. You will have 3 minutes for comment. And right now, Chair Rucker, we have Brandon Collins. Brandon, you're on. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, CRHA. I'm Brandon Collins. I'm a staff person for FAR, the Public Housing Association of Residents. FAR is the federally recognized resident council and resident advisory board for public housing in Charlottesville. Hope you all are great. Don't have a whole lot to say this evening besides y'all are doing a great job. I was looking through the numbers of reports and really appreciate that information, and just really encourage the board to ask questions. CRHA has a lot of balls in the air and really moving forward on a lot of things that I think FAR has been wanting for a really long time. Some of that has to do with proper staffing, but some of that is also how you go about handling your business. And we think Mr. Sales is doing a great job and really encouraged by the support work from Ms. Glenn Matthews, in terms of seeking out grant funding. That's something we've always really encouraged Housing Authority to do, which hasn't ever really happened until really recently. And I think that's awesome. And just, throw it out there that you're also dealing with COVID-19 and redevelopment and getting on track with HUD. And it's a lot of information. It's hard to keep up with. And I really encourage the board this evening to ask some questions so you can get a real detailed and sort of nitty gritty understanding of how Housing Authority works. It's a lot to keep up with, and I spent a lot of time trying to keep up with it. And so I think it's good for everybody to know this stuff for the future. I was hoping that when you get to it, the aged receivables report, if you're getting just sort of a decipher of what that means, could be really helpful. I think I understand the approach just from everything that's going on, but would like to maybe just be able to decipher that report a little better. And throwing out there that, safety continues to be a major concern. We know you all are paying attention to it. We know the staff is, we are, residents are, and just really encouraging, us all to work together as we have been able to do on almost everything. So Encourage folks to attend that safety committee meeting tomorrow night, and to see what we can do to make things better for residents. Lastly, I wanted to point out, FAR is still recruiting for our internship program for residents public housing. You can call us at 434-984-3255 if you want to learn more about it. I believe we're going to have some of those applications in rent statements if we can work that out with you all. And I think we probably already have worked that out with you. And excited about annual plan, and just it's funny because it's been a rush job ever since I've been working for FAR, and that's been about 8 years. So we really appreciate getting on the front end of the annual plan a little bit this go around, and really, as always, appreciate the immense communication we have with CRHA right now. And so we're really looking forward to helping make sure the annual plan is good and usable and approved on time. And that's it.
And if anybody else in attendance would like to address commission at this time, please click the raise hand icon, or if you're joining us by phone, press *9. Chair Rutger, that appears to be it. Chair Rutger, you are muted.
Thank you. And just reminding people, if we have a second public comment period at the end of our meeting, if something comes up. So we have updates from commissioners. We are not approving minutes this month. We'll approve them next month. I think they weren't quite ready. So anyone have updates? Besides the meetings we already mentioned. Okay. I did want to bring up, I saw there was a great article, and just wanted to congratulate the CRHA team and Mr. Sales and everyone who's been working so hard. There was a great article in the Daily Progress Sunday. And I thought it was just nice to see CRHA in a positive light. In the news. I know it's going to take a lot more work, and nothing is fixed or perfect, but generally positive movement is awesome. So congratulations to the CRHA staff on that article.
Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
real quick, I saw and rewatched the work session that I had missed last week. Again, my apologies. But I saw that part of the redevelopment committee. I want to let you know that I've reached out to Mr. Norris, but I've had a standing work meeting for the last 15 years, and I don't ever see that one not happening. And it's 2 o'clock to 3:30 every Thursday. So I will attend when I can. But probably not often, unfortunately, due to that work meeting.
Thank you. And I don't know, I remember it took a long time to get to the current Thursday at 2:30 meeting time. So, we can revisit that at some point, but I will let the Redevelopment Committee, they can think about that when the time comes. Okay. I also just had one other just general comment. As we know, the school board hasn't voted yet, but just to put it on our, as we're looking at grants or partnerships, that it looks like we're going to be continuing with the virtual learning in the public schools until at least January for the younger students, and probably February for the older students. And, just if you hear residents, anyone with ideas to make this any easier, things that we could help with or partner, just please bring that forward and we can try to do what we can. So I know it's adding to everyone's stress and especially, in tight quarters when the cold weather comes, it's going to be rough. But so anyway, please, reach out if anyone's got ideas or updates. I know there's some programs going on, but there may be more that we can do. So Mr. Sales, would you like to give your update?
Yes, very brief. So I need to go back to the meeting announcements. It slipped my mind. The admin plan has been published for a little bit over 30 days now. So we're going to be looking for a vote on that at the November 12th meeting. That is going to also be on the agenda besides the annual plan. So my update. We're currently looking for office space. We have the city, well, we were told by interim city attorney John Blair, city council will be discussing that in a November work session. So we'll have a clearer picture of what that looks like then. The recovery agreement was approved by the city council last Monday. We're awaiting the executed copies of the document so we can sign one internally, send them to HUD for HUD to sign them, and then send them back to us. So we have a copy and the city has a copy. We've moved the REACT inspections. We previously talked about procuring a firm to inspect the 271 public housing units we will continue to have after the beginning of the year. So that will now be December 7th through December the 11th. So during that time, they'll inspect every unit, exterior and interior, create work orders for those units. It will be inputted in our system, and then our team will work to address those work orders. We have executed an MOA, Memorandum of Agreement with Habitat to complete 7 turn units for us at West Haven. So that work will start next week. Our team has been working the last 2 weeks to get the units ready for Habitat, stripping the units down, pulling cabinets out, just doing all the prep work, painting for Habitat to come do the rest of the work before we can rent them. And I believe that is it. I would like to thank my staff. They've been working really hard to get us in the position we are now. The HCV team has, been doing a stellar job leasing up units, leasing up vouchers. We put in an application maybe 2 weeks ago for mainstream vouchers, 40 additional mainstream vouchers, which will be the first time the Housing Authority has gotten new vouchers in quite a while. We have heard a little bit of rumblings that we're going to get vouchers between 25 and 40, but we don't know the exact number yet. Well, at least I'm not authorized to provide that exact number yet. So we'll look to have that announcement sometime within the next month or so. So then that'll come out to the board. We'll have to adjust the admin plan to reflect those additional vouchers and provide the preference in the admin plan for that. So we will need to amend the admin plan at some point in the near future, but it won't be a significant amendment like we're currently undertaking. And that is all I have.
Okay, questions? It looks like, so we still, on the agenda, we still will have a redevelopment update, so we can ask Mr. Sales, but I would say, save some of those questions for later. I have a question that's just sort of a I'm wondering how the incentive program for landlords has been received, if it's if that's, I know you said it's being implemented, but I wasn't sure if that's actually been out there and been received well.
So due to the number of vouchers we had to put out on the street, we did a little bit of adjusting to the program to try to assist more individuals with housing, getting housing with the voucher. The security deposit program has really worked a lot. I mean, we've processed 10 security deposit requests for $7,125, and we provided one new landlord incentive, which was a new landlord at $500. So the landlords have had to pick between the two. So if they get a tenant who needs security deposit, they've been selecting the security deposit. But if the tenant does not need the security deposit fund, they've been getting the landlord incentive, which is the $500. So most individuals have needed the security deposit. So we've been providing that. And we have 16 additional vouchers that are anticipated to get leased up this quarter, well, this month. So we're believing they are going to also request some funds as well. And we have now until December 31st of 2021 to expend the funds. At first, we had until the end of this fiscal year.
Oh, wow.
So we have some additional time. So if we find out that the program is not working, but I think it's only been available for a month, and so it is working, in my opinion, we can always move those funds to something else.
That's good news.
I think one update that may be helpful since the, in your update, the budget adjusting for rent is the council support of the back payments of rent that we passed with CARES Act funding, if you want to share that.
Very true. So the city council last Monday did approve $80,000 of federal CARES funding to cover back rent for tenants who rent between the month of March 2020 and current, which is 122 households. The amount is a little $55,000. So there will be some leftover, and we plan to use that for households that were not able to pay for the month of November. The city has requested the funds come back, I think November 12th, if they aren't expended by then, just so they can still meet their timeliness deadlines on the overall funding. So we'll work to implement that once the funds are received. We've already started discussing how the implementation will work internally with the households and how we will notify them of the payment. So we do appreciate the support. That tenant accounts receivable has been one of the bigger hits on the scoring historically. In many years, if you go back to the audits, HUD has always dinged the housing authority on collecting rent and failure to collect rent. So this is really going to help a lot. It's going to bring our current debt receivables down to about $12,000, which is really low. Other agencies are running a lot higher than that. So it's going to be probably the first time in a very long time it's been that low. So we are really appreciative of the support. It's going to allow us to take care of the property a little bit more than what we have been. We've really invested a lot in our both staff and taking care of the property within the last few months. And I think most of the residents will tell you they're starting to see the dividend on that and they're happy about it.
Wonderful. That's great news. So that not only helps, I mean, it helps the families, which is amazing, but it also helps So the scoring somehow will show that the rent was paid.
Yeah, it's going to help us 3 times. It's not only going to help the family, it's going to help the housing authority with the scoring. It's also going to help us maintain the properties. So it's really a win-win-win all over the place. So we're really appreciative of the support from the city.
Wonderful. That is amazing. And following on that, I'm just wondering at some point, I know this is not the most urgent thing at the moment, but it would be interesting at some point to look at all of the COVID costs, the funds that have come in to help due to the pandemic. And then also just, I'm kind of wondering, like, where we were losing money, where we needed more support, both with equipment, but also in terms of rent stabilization and other things. It would just be interesting to maybe not now, but after hopefully the things are, go, let's say, back to normal, or we have a vaccine, just like for future emergency planning. We haven't really had something like this hit, and just so that we can track, this for next time, hopefully not next time, but in a future emergency. Just interested to see those numbers at some point. Definitely not yet.
Okay. Well, I think we can certainly provide that number. Kathleen has been tracking that since probably the beginning. She has like a spreadsheet that she's been running.
Okay, other questions for Mr. Sales at this moment? All right. Then let's move on. Mr. Sales, can you talk us through the resolution to procure security services?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So a solicitation was issued for security services on June the 10th. Over 8,500 firms received the solicitation package. The solicitation proposals were due on July the 2nd. Only 2 firms actually responded. The first firm that responded was Century Forest Security, which is based in Fairfax, Virginia. And the other firm was Millennium, which is based in Charlottesville, and that's our current firm for providing security services. Both firms were scored by myself, the Director of Operations, which is Ms. Glenn Matthews, the Director of Maintenance, which is Bruno Popovic, and an asset manager. Of those scorings, Century Forest was scored at 90.5 and Millennium was scored at 81.5. So based upon the scoring, the firm Century Forest is recommended by the Housing Authority for a 1-year contract with the option to renew annually for up to 4 years. I will provide you a little bit more background. So before I was, well, I guess I was hired, but I hadn't started yet, so I wasn't an official employee. I was not allowed to be a part of the solicitation process or scoring until after I became an employee. So they pushed the scoring back. Due to that, I mean, Commissioner Goldblatt was also originally part, but she also wasn't able to score because she was an official employee. And during the safety meetings, I believe Commissioner Goldblatt would also agree. It's come up multiple times by residents about the contract and wanting to know what's in the contract and being a part of the process of creating that contract and the scope of work for that contractor.
Have they reviewed this?
No, and they have not been able to because it's because of procurement laws. If this was to happen, they would have to be a part of it at the beginning, creating the scope of work like we did with the sustainability scope of work, drafting the scope of work, and then putting it in the solicitation and putting it out. I've mentioned it a couple of times about talking and adding a FAR representative as an employee that will only work to score applications just so they have a little bit more involvement in the process and they're not sitting out looking in. But that was not in place and it still isn't in place. We've only talked about it for this solicitation. So I did want to provide that information because I think it's important for you all to know.
how would that work?
Uh,
How would that work for somebody to be employed just to score? Would it be a part-time employee? Just
yeah, it will be a part-time employee. The person would only work when we're going over solicitations and creating scope of works.
So I think it would be important for, especially with all the conversations that's going and that have been happening with the safety committee, and Commissioner Goldblatt, I'm interested in your thoughts about this, for them to be able to review and get feedback, or, you know, whatever the next steps of the process would be.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm not, you'll have to, and we have Mr. Oberg on in terms of the lawyer, but as far as is available to us of the law, I do think it would be great for, especially the people who've been regularly attending the safety committee meetings, to get an opportunity to discuss what should be in the contract. And I'm not sure what the legal ramifications are right now and how much wiggle room there is, but I think that would be important.
So in terms of, so the extent of FAR participation in this process also has been reviewing it and maybe commenting on it today during public comment, or have they had other opportunities?
They haven't had any opportunity at all. And as you see, it's not an actual contract that's in
Yeah.
that's in the package. It's just a resolution.
It's used
Yes.
to hire that firm.
Yeah. So no one has reviewed the contract, and I don't think FAR has reviewed the solicitation either.
Yeah.
Can FAR review the contract as it's being drafted? Is that something that they could be brought into that process?
I don't know. We can have that discussion, but I think any firm that we decide to go with, they're going to go based upon what they bidded. So if we can't add anything to that contract, otherwise the other firm can say, hey, we could have done that work for less, but we weren't given an opportunity to score that work.
This is Dave Oberg. I think you're running into some challenges at the point that you start publishing it because of the complication of the bidding process. I think John is correct that invites a lot of challenges that you probably don't want to.
So if we wanted the residents and FAR to be able to provide feedback, what would be our options?
It was recommended that if the board did not want to go through with it as is currently recommended, that they vote to cancel the solicitation and we start over. And at that point, we can open up the scope of work design and let the safety committee work with that as well before officially putting one out.
So I'm just wondering if you can talk to us a little bit operationally about what that means. I know that we're currently contracted with Millennium, but I want to make sure, given how concerned residents are, that there's no interruption of service. So can you just let us know if we were to vote to say that we want to cancel this and that we want to bring this to the safety committee and perhaps to a committee within FAR specifically, before putting out another RFP? Can you just tell us, like, what would that mean?
It will not interrupt our current services. I mean, they are still under contract, so it has nothing. Their contract wouldn't end until we gave them a date of the contract ending. So that wouldn't be an issue. I would prefer for whatever group that works on it, it be combined with the housing authority. So inviting FAR in instead of saying, hey, FAR, take this RFP and go work on it and come back to us. I'd rather it be something that we're working on internally, because we do have a procurement interagency agreement with Portsmouth. So we would need to be able to work with her time as well.
So what do other board members think about starting the process over?
I mean, having been in so many of these safety committee meetings, I feel the urgency of action. And I think in part because of that urgency, I just think residents really deserve a contract that they think is fair and that provides the services that they most want. And if that's, and it's, I mean, I think it's possible based upon what was sent out that some of that might be in the, might end up in the current contract, but it's not guaranteed. And I'd also really like to, I think one of the things that the safety committee has been trying to do is to have resident voices lead to action. And this seems like a really good example of how that could work, that that if we allow the safety committee in conjunction with FAR to work on this, and then FAR in conjunction with CRHA to work on it, it makes the safety committee more into an action committee, even if it does mean that it's in some ways going to be duplication of efforts.
If that was the case and that's what we voted on tonight, what were you thinking? What is the timeline for be able to get this reviewed with all the additional reviews? I have been to one safety committee meeting, and so I haven't heard everything you've heard, Commissioner Goldblatt, but I've heard the concerns from the residents during that meeting, which was, understandable, the concerns. So I just wonder what the time frame is for that.
I'm wondering, I know that, I'm also wondering, just thinking about FAR as they, like, if they have an opinion, it might be helpful for them, because if, they might have, might be helpful to, is that allowed? Like, can we have someone come in and just say what, first of all, just in terms of capacity, but if they've, what they think of this RFP, that might be helpful in making a decision.
Mr. Oberg, I think we can do that. Yes. If panelists, or I mean, what are they called? Attendees. Oh yeah, we have two hands up. If they could speak to this, I think.
Yes, I think that's fun.
We're seeing I think the want to bring this back to the residents, but also we want to make sure we're not missing, an important opportunity for urgency, depending on what residents have been talking about. So can we call on?
I'm here. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Can we call on Mr. Gathers to speak?
Sure.
And Mr. Collins?
Mr. Gathers, you are on with commission.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. I had just a couple of questions of concern. First of all, I appreciate you all taking bold steps in the initiative to try to ensure that our residents are safe and feel safe and are just put in a better position than they're presently in. I do have a question though, as to what items or criteria were looked at for the scoring. And also, do any of you all have any concerns about the actual location of this this new firm, that's being considered, and the fact that they're not based here or really anywhere near here locally? I just think that we understand the urgency of the moment, but I think that we need more information in order to be able to take it back to our housing residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sales, did you, I did wonder about the location, but assumed that in the, in your deliberations that they would have local people on the ground or people living in Charlottesville. Is that the case?
The firm did, that was one of my questions to the firm was how do they plan on implementing the contract and following through? And they said they had some individuals that were local that could do the work and that they were planning to rehire if they were awarded the contract. And unfortunately, location is not a preference that is allowed by HUD when procuring a firm. So the location of where that firm is compared to where you are is not one of HUD's looked at preferences for procurement reasons.
the record, we have one more attendee that would like to speak.
Right.
Brandon, you are on commission.
Hey y'all, it's Brandon Collins with FAR. We were able to discuss this issue fairly quickly. And I think our thought was, you know, the process started and kind of was underway before John could really get a hold on it, and really before you know, FAR was raising these questions about, you know, can we have residents help craft, you know, what security is supposed to do. So our feeling was, you know, there's procurement laws, a lot of things, and that you know, you went through a process. We trust the process, and that we're okay with you moving ahead. We certainly don't want to slow things down. That said, you know, we're not opposed to having to restart, but I think our thought was, let's go with this, and you know, let's make sure that the selected firm is able to engage the safety committee. And I think that's tantamount. And you know, that's kind of where our
So if that's, I mean, if that's the case, then I wonder if FAR feels we should move forward, and I will have to see what other commissioners think. If we were to move forward, can we take the time that we perhaps would have spent starting over and get a process in place to have a part-time employee as a resident who would get to sit on these committees and be part of the scoring, and develop a process, not just with the safety committee, but I think when we do anything like this, to get the committees involved earlier on during the actual drafting process, so that residents get input into the kinds of services that will be provided.
I will say we have a number of employees that are residents currently. They were not involved in the process, but we do have a number of residents currently that work for the Housing Authority that could be a part of the process. And I will say also going forward, I don't think we're going to come across this issue while I'm the ED, because I have been getting the committees involved, such as a sustainability plan scope of work that was in front of the redevelopment committee a couple times before coming to you guys. So I do think that is the process going forward. If you all want to have something formal, I mean, we can work on that. But I don't know. I don't want to say it's not needed because who knows how long I'll be here. It's always up to you guys whether I stay employed or not.
I have a question about the whatever this contract looks like, if there is determined based on the timeline that that when it started, that there are going to be requests that are not included in it. What does that, how is the contract modified? Or is it better to know for these players to have a role before the contract is awarded, or to modify the contract after it starts? Like, what's easier?
It's only so many modifications you can do to the contract that will make it, makes it so it's still fair. So we requested an hourly rate for armed security, an hourly rate for non-armed security, the cost for an additional day. So we've asked for these costs. So if we wanted to add those in, we could do that and say, this contract will still be awarded to this firm based upon these, because they were compared. We compared, as long as we're comparing apples to apples. If we asked them to do something that we did not give them a line for them to quote us on, so let's say, I'm trying to think of something. I don't know. It's really not too much that you can ask security firm for that you're not asking them to do hourly. Let's say if we wanted them to hire someone and make them salaried and work on that site permanently or something like that, that both firms did not quote us on, then that's, I think, where we're going to run into an issue. And I think Mr. Oberg might be able to explain that if you all have questions about it. But I think when we're not giving both firms the opportunity to quote us on that same thing, but our plan is to add that or modify it, I think that's where we run into an issue.
Another question, this is for a one-year contract with the option to renew. When that renewal comes, would that be a time where, you know, we could revisit pieces of the contract, things added, not added, or just change? You know, at that point, we will know them. Or does that have to go out to be reprocured if
it's not the same contract, yes.
Okay, okay.
Because both firms responded with the same services for both contracts. So in the housing authority at any time has the right to cancel the contract. So we could award it to them today and cancel it 2 months from now or a day from now. I hope we wouldn't do that, but the housing authority has that right based upon the clauses that were added in the contract.
Okay.
Can I just ask, and I'm sorry, I'm a new rookie commissioner here, so y'all can stop me if but based off of the one meeting that I did go to, there was a lot of concerns, and Commissioner Goldblatt, please interrupt me if I'm overstepping or asking the wrong questions. But during that meeting, I did hear a lot of concerns from the residents about feeling as if that maybe security wasn't doing enough during the crisis that was happening at the time. Is that the fault of the security, or is it the fault of the contract? And do we have the contract written or the RFP written in such a manner that it would give more security to their residents, where they might feel more secure? I mean, was that the problem? And Mr. Sales, I think you remember the meeting that I'm referring to.
Yes, that is the contract. I don't think it would be on a positive light to shed that doubt on either of the firms, Millennium or Century. It's all about what you ask them to do. And at the time they were originally procured, they were asked to observe and report. So they observed and reported to the ED what they saw on the sites. Over time, we've requested that they do more. Like now, when I first got here, they weren't getting out the vehicles. They were sitting in their vehicles the entire time. Now I drive through very often over the weekends, and they are out walking the site. They weren't enforcing the parking policy. And we got a lot of complaints from residents about parking and not being able to park, having to walk blocks away at a place they pay rent to, and guests coming in and parking in the parking spots. So we've addressed that. Debarment, currently the police department is identified as the agency that can bar. They've stepped up and said, hey, we would do that. We just need you all to tell us that that's what you want us to do. So it's really what you put in the contract, and we didn't have a good contract because we identified observe and report as their duties. So
you do feel like this contract has addressed some of the issues that we heard?
Yes. But it's a contract, not the contractors, not the firms.
Yeah. Thank you. That's a good point. Well, I feel like if the people who scored this did a thorough job, I would be okay, going forward with this contract, and then over the year, and then working with the safety committee. At that point, maybe we adjust things. That gives us a whole year potentially to make a new process for including residents, changing what we have, so that we can both take immediate action, but also, build in the new relationship, how we would move forward to make adjustments when needed, and involve residents as much as we can.
Yeah, I would be in favor. I tend to like formality, and because I guess I'm like a butthead. So I would like a formal process moving forward to make sure that we don't have to rely on, the benevolence of a particular ED, and that so people like things are written down and in a single place in terms of the processes we want. So I think it would be great if we have a process that's working. I think it would be great actually to formalize that process.
And my thoughts are just that if this is probably the best time of year for us to be able to have some space to make sure that we are not questioning this in a year and that we're not starting with someone new. It's winter, the traffic and a lot of that hanging out that people were, complaining about, that is not normally as much during the winter as it is during the spring and summer. And so if this is something that, and I'm also thinking about the conversations that are coming up with the safety committee and even the city and the CPD and how all of those, and again, I'm saying all this without having, to know whether, what the feedback from the community members would be about this contract. But I do think that it's during this time of year is the best time to, if we were talking about engaging them from the start, that it would be an ideal time to do this right. So maybe we're not reviewing and having to do a new process in a year.
So Mr. Sales, do you need a vote on this? It does say resolution, but it's not yet written as a resolution.
Yes, I do need some direction as to whether we will move forward with awarding the contract to Century for Security LLC.
Okay. Dr. Henry, do you have thoughts on this? I know you do. I mean, would you like to speak about your thoughts on this?
I really don't have anything to say. I just wondered how long the contract is for.
Contract is for 1 year with an option to renew for 4 additional years, 1 year at a time though. So it's for a total of no more than 5 years.
That's all. That's something, I guess, to consider with regard to whether we want to be locked into a particular choice of two, or if you went back to the drawing board, what are the chances of getting a larger pool?
So to give Mr. Sales direction, should we vote or just state, that we're in agreement or not to moving forward with this? I don't know if we need a roll call vote or we just kind of take a, what do they call, a straw poll? I'm in favor with moving ahead. Are others in favor with moving ahead?
Could you state exactly what it is we're moving ahead with?
Mr. Sales, I believe, sorry, go ahead.
If you all voted today, we'll be moving forward with awarding a contract for security services to Century Force Security LLC for 1 year. And as long as the Housing Authority agrees, they will pick up, we would renew it again in a year from now. We would have the same conversation without it having to be a resolution. It would be a conversation since they would already be under contract. We would
So
just
you do need a roll call vote tonight.
correct.
Okay.
If you all aren't ready to vote, it could always be pushed back if you all aren't ready.
The chair said she was ready to vote.
I'm ready to vote if others, to tell me if you need more time, but I'm ready to vote.
But we would need to form this in a motion in a second, correct?
Yes. So does anyone have a motion? I believe I can't do the motion.
So I will move that to approve the resolution as submitted. Am I okay by executive director to move forward with the recommended selection for procurement of security services for 1 year.
I second.
Okay. And Leslie, are you still on? Did you do a?
Yes.
Okay.
Chair Richter,
Yes.
Commissioner Goldblatt,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Dr. Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Osteen, Commissioner Slaughter, Mayor Walker.
I'm a yes, but I do want to go on record that I think that having FAR and the residents having had reviewed the contract, weighed in on it with the thoughts and ideas that are floating around now would make me feel a lot more comfortable.
Okay.
I echo those sentiments.
Yeah. Me too.
Agreed. Maybe that can also set the stage for the formal process for other committees and procurement. You know, with this as an example, we can take it and move forward with those. Or use it as a sort of an example case to establish those. Okay, so the resolution passes. And sorry, I have to find the agenda again. I believe,
It's a safety committee update.
thank you, I was writing on the back of it.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so I'll do my best to be brief, and I'm happy to answer any questions people have. So the safety committee, we've been trying as much as possible to be a working committee. To residents who are listening, I want to just remind you that we meet every other Tuesday at 6 p.m. It's the same Zoom link and the same password. I did look into it, and UVA has made it impossible for me to get rid of the password. So unless someone else generates the link and makes me a co-host, unfortunately, you will have to enter the password, but it's always the same. You can find that on the FAR website. You can also find it on the CRHA website, and it gets sent out periodically. So you can just like put it in your calendar. It's always there. We'll be meeting tomorrow, October 27th, and then again on November 10th, and then again every other Tuesday from there on out. But I'll keep reminding people at the meetings. I take really detailed notes, but whenever residents speak, I merely note as resident. When staff or FAR representatives speak, I note who it is who's saying that for the record. But I want residents to know that you can, I hope that you feel freely able to share what's going on. The meetings are not recorded. In terms of things that we've considered, at our last meeting, we spent a lot of time talking about not just what residents wanted from police if we were to try to move forward with an MOU with the CPD, and Mr. Sales provided us with an update on that process, but also what they don't want. So the things that they don't want to have happen in their communities. Some residents have been feeling safer. Perhaps this is about the change in season. But they feel as though they've noticed that the parking policy has been enforced, and that they've noticed that lighting has been better. There's still some lighting issues, but that they're seeing those things be resolved. We've talked a lot about neighbors having disputes and that driving some of the safety concerns. And that's something that has been raised as an issue, but it's not something that we have a ready solution for, though there have been several residents who've been really creative in the midst of a pandemic of thinking about various ways that communities could, I don't want to say come together because that's not quite correct, but that they could engage with each other in ways that are meaningful so that neighbors could feel more like neighbors and more like they had each other's backs. We've also talked some about plans for resident engagement to get more resident feedback on safety issues. CRHA is in the process of working on sending out a survey that might have already gone out. I guess we'll hear about that tomorrow, to get more feedback from residents more broadly beyond those who are coming to safety committee meetings about their concerns and how they feel about safety. And we've talked some about creative ways to have that as resident driven as possible in terms of, again, neighbors reaching out to neighbors. So if anyone has ideas about how to do that, that would be really great. I think there are still continue to be a lot of major concerns that are unresolved. I think residents have a lot of concerns about CPD, and those have not been necessarily resolved. And I think that in addition to the regular concerns, the pandemic, the ability to engage together continues to be a real concern. Tomorrow, we're going to continue our discussion of how we imagine policing working. We're also going to talk some about cameras. As I understand it, the data on cameras is difficult. It's not conclusive that cameras prevent crime, but many people, when cameras are present, feel safer. And so we have to hear from residents what they think. If cameras are up, things will be caught on camera that they might not necessarily see as safety violations, but they'll be on the cameras. At the same time, that feeling of security is clearly very important. And so we want residents to say how they weigh these various factors as we consider how cameras are currently being used and will be being used in future sites, especially as we redevelop. So I said that really fast, but I'd love to answer any questions anyone has.
I have just a question about neighbors having disputes, and you don't have to answer specifically, but just wondering, if it comes up sometime. I'm wondering if the safety committee ever, on some of the smaller sites, the CRHA community is quite small, and the surrounding community is often, putting pressure or adding to the safety concerns. So I wonder if someday we could, I think we're still getting the safety committee strengthened and established, but maybe sometime reaching out to different neighborhood groups, especially for the smaller sites that I think kind of make up their neighborhood, make their neighborhood larger, to incorporate those residents as well.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I think right now we're still trying to get a groove and also figure out how this works over Zoom, but it would be great to get more people involved. We know we've had some residents who have said that they think that their communities are really strong. They like their neighbors. And so we asked them at the last meeting to just think about why, like what's going on here that maybe is hard to put your finger on. But if there's a way to spread that to other sites, what's happening that makes you say, I really feel comfortable with my neighbors. I like them. Neighbors are supporting each other, not causing disputes.
Other questions or thoughts? thank you for keeping these steady and stable and continuing the work. Okay, there's nothing else. Let's move on to the redevelopment update.
So I have the redevelopment update I provided to the board, but just to kind of recap some of the items in there. There's been a lot of discussion over the last couple of weeks with the city in particular regarding the funding agreement for our phase 1 projects, the $3 million that the city has committed from the capital improvement program. And there was a thorough discussion at the city council meeting last Monday night about that. And they agreed to modify the funding agreement to make it easier for us to draw down the funds in a more timely manner so that we can proceed with the projects. So we're grateful for that change that they made. Still working on an issue regarding property taxes and payment in lieu of taxes. And I think there's still some language that's bouncing back and forth on that. But in general, very grateful for the support we're getting from the city and from Mayor Walker and her colleagues on council. Thank you. We are just in general just working hard right now and getting all of our ducks in a row when it comes to moving to closing. And we are, as of this morning, aiming for a November 19th closing date, although that could change. But it's all contingent upon all of these pieces falling into place between the city funding, the HUD, the final HUD approvals, which we hope to have in hand by the end of September. Obviously, everything's taking longer than expected, but we hope to have those final HUD approvals within a few days or a week. And then the bank financing's coming together. So I know I say this every month, but it's all coming together. And we should be closing this month, or sorry, next month in theory. And then we can start mobilizing for construction. On the construction side, the big news from last week was that we got our building permit for Crescent Halls, which is very exciting. So, which means once all the closing documents are approved and finalized, we can actually get moving on mobilizing for construction at Crescent Halls. And we think we're about a week away from getting the building permit at South First Street Phase 1. So there were a few lingering items that they were working on at Department of Neighborhood Development Services there. So just want to give a big shout out to our whole development services team, in particular, Jeff Meyer at VCDC, and then all the attorneys that have been working overtime the last few weeks to get all the documents approved and finalized and synced up, and of course the city staff that have been so supportive. So it's definitely a team effort. And yeah, Section 3 continues. You know, Joy Johnson is our Section 3 coordinator, continues to get people in the pipeline and connect people with resources. We had a great meeting with the city's Office of Economic Development last week or the week before in preparation for the second Trade Builders Academy, getting residents trained in construction skills. And we're hoping to kick that off very early in 2021. So we'll be starting to do some outreach and recruitment for that Trade Builders Academy in the coming weeks, and look to have a group of about 10 participants. And as soon as they graduate, they can go right onto the job site. So that's the idea, at least. So so things are moving. I'm happy to answer any questions anybody might have.
No question, just congratulations to you for all your efforts here. So appreciate you.
Thank you.
Will the closing date be the same for both projects?
Yes, that's the goal, is to have them both close on the same day. Again, it may not be the 19th of November. That's the date that Jeff Meyer put out there this morning, but you know.
Whatever
yeah.
it is, it could, yeah.
Exactly.
Questions? It's just awesome. I mean, I know so so much paperwork. An endless kind of little tweaking of everything, but it sounds like it's going. Okay. Let's see. Oh, do we want to talk about the sustainability? It from what I received, it looked like it was moving ahead with what we discussed last time. Those edits were in there. So is it moving along?
Yeah, task 6 was removed. That
Yeah.
was the marketability. So as long as the board is okay with it, there's no formal vote, straw vote is fine. We will move forward with sending this over to the city council for just a glance over.
I'm muted. Board members, are you are okay with continuing to move forward? I looked over it and it all looks like everything we discussed was incorporated or removed as needed.
Yeah, I looked over it too and liked how it looked.
And the city now, the new agreement is that the sustainability study would be, hopefully, could be tied to the phase 2 South First Street, the timing on that, correct? So we have time to get this right.
Yes, the sustainability plan is tied to phase 2. So if we don't get that completed, we will not receive funding for phase 2.
Okay, good. It does seem like, I mean, depending on what we get, it does seem like it will take some time, especially because we can't gather easily for some of the resident engagement pieces. Okay, are others, Dr. Henry and Mayor Walker, are you, you're okay moving forward with this? And Ms. Green, I think you said you were. Okay. Okay, I think it's good. I just wanted to make sure we checked in on that. Okay, we're up to the second set of public comment. And let me see if I can figure out how to see attendees. Okay.
Yes, if any attendees would like to address commission at this time, please click the raise hand icon, or if you're joining us by phone, press *9. And we have Brandon Collins. Go ahead, Brandon. You have 3 minutes.
Hi again, I'm Brandon Collins. I work for FAR, Public Housing Association of Residents. We're the federally recognized resident council and resident advisory board. Sorry that I cut off while chatting with you earlier, but it sounds like you heard enough to know kind of where FAR was coming from. I know it seems a little off and a little risky, but I think it's the right move, and we can all just keep moving forward. Otherwise, just really appreciate y'all doing the work and appreciate y'all learning more. I know Commissioner Green and Commissioner Henry are fairly new to Housing Authority Board, but I know y'all are totally capable of understanding all the ins and outs. So I just really encourage you to understand that stuff. And I will say, you know, John knows this stuff in and out, and he's got a great team, a great staff that's doing better. And we really do appreciate the partnership, and look forward to talking about the admin plan and the annual plan very soon.
If anyone else would like to address commission at this time, please click your raise hand icon or press *9 if you're joining us by phone. Chair Ricker, that appears to be it.
Okay. Thank you to everyone who joined, and staff and, and everyone for putting in the work. I had sent out a list of the committees and we're working with staff to figure out there's never going to be a perfect time and day, but the best time and day to reinstate those committees. So hopefully we can get that out in the next couple of weeks, and start, those kind of rolling on a regular basis. Any other thoughts from commissioners, staff, anyone before we adjourn? Okay, so we are ready for a motion for adjournment.
I move to adjourn this regular October meeting of the CRHA Board.
Second.
Okay, Leslie, can you do the roll call vote?
Chair Riker,
Yes.
Commissioner Goldblatt,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Dr. Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Osteen, Commissioner Slaughter, Mayor Walker.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
yeah, thank you all. Great
Thank
work.
you. Bye.